Welcome to How Leaders Lead. I'm Kula Callahan, here to bring you another edition of 3 More Questions with David Novak. David, we've got a fun one today. We're debriefing your conversation with Mike Wirth, who is the CEO of Chevron, which is a gigantic, complex behemoth of a business.
Yeah, and he has to cover a lot of different things, but the thing that really impresses me the most about Mike is his ability to be prepared for it all. This is a guy who gets up at 3 a.m. in the morning, thinks about his day, thinks about who he's going to be talking to, and really gets prepared to really be his very best for every meeting that he has. And, I really appreciate a leader who takes that time to really get ready to go.
If you look at videos of Mike Wirth on YouTube, he just has an answer for everything. And you can just tell that he puts in the effort to be prepared. And it really shows so much respect to the person interviewing him. So I know that you felt that way during
He comes off extremely confident because he should be, and that confidence is rooted in his competence. He's put in the hard yards. He knows his business cold. He walks the walk, and I think that's something that really drives confidence and also inspires people to follow him. With Mike, you're not going to be following him off a cliff.
Exactly. Well, I'm excited to get your take on some of the concepts that you and Mike discussed. So let's get going with our questions for today.
All right, fire away.
Question number 1. Chevron is a massive company, as we all know. They have a market cap of $272 billion. They have a highly complex business that operates in sites in very hostile parts of the world. I mean, this company is just a massive, massive operation. David, this question is pretty fun. Let's just say one day, Mike Wirth picks up the phone, calls you, says, David, I'm leaving Chevron. You're the new CEO. You start tomorrow. What do you do? What do you do first?
Well, first of all, I would say no, because I don't really have the background to be successful in a job like that. He's an engineer. There's a lot of engineers in that company. There's a lot of things that you really have to go deep on that I don't really have the capability. If I had that challenge, though, and I went in without the knowledge, what I would do is really find the subject matter experts in every one of the business segments, bring them into the room, ask them what was working, what's not working, and have them educate me on the issues that I could bring my power to bear to really help them solve them and move forward. So I would really seek to learn from the experts, and I would do everything I could to understand how they were seeing the business, and then form my own opinion by going out and being with the front line and trying to get a real sense of how the business really operates. But again, Kula, I don't expect any call coming to me soon from Chevron or any other oil company.
You might get a call to be a roughneck, which is what the frontline workers at Chevron who are out in the field on the plants, that's what they call them. They call them roughnecks. So I could see you as a roughneck.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think I could be a roughneck about 50 years ago. But again, I like the way how Mike really appreciated the work that they do. He talked about how tough it is, how important it is, and how that job is key to the oil business. And, I think anybody as a leader needs to show respect for everybody in the company and the job that they provide. And Mike is a guy who really makes everyone feel like they count, because they do.
Absolutely. Question number 2. One of the cultural components that Mike is driving at Chevron is psychological safety. He wants their culture to be one where people feel safe to speak their mind and share their opinion about what's going on without being punished for it. What should leaders do to create this system that really invites employees to share what they really think about the business and know that they're not going to be punished for their opinion?
Well, that really reminds me of Alan Mulally when he went to Ford.
Mm-hmm.
He had meetings with his team where they reviewed projects, and everybody color-coded their projects. And when his first meeting he went to, everybody gave themselves a green. And he said, how in the world can you possibly have a company with all greens when we just lost $15 billion? And he really, really wanted to get a company that really was led by leaders who were truth tellers. And I love how he talks about the story. It took him, a few of those meetings before a red showed up And when that red showed up, he immediately started applauding because then that was when he really felt like the culture could be turned around and they could actually get great results. And I think that's a great story because, obviously Alan really believed in the power of getting the truth, understanding what the real reality is, and then going forward from that point. And Mike is doing the same thing. But psychological safety comes from knowing that you can speak up. And if people disagree with you, particularly with people with more power than you, they're not gonna attack you or punish you for doing that. And that really comes from walking the talk. That you can ask people to give you the truth, but when you give them the truth and you give them hell for doing it, you're not going to get that truth very soon. So I think it really comes from saying this is what you expect from the team, recognizing people when they give you the straight truth, and you walk the talk on it. And when you get that feedback, you actually can take it. And that's really hard for a lot of leaders who happen to be thin-skinned and take things very personal. But I think in the business, you need to take the business very seriously, but not yourself. And I think if you do that, you're willing to accept criticism and take the feedback that will ultimately help you, come to the best decisions.
I love you say this all the time, David. Once you get feedback from somebody about what's working or what's not working, and they share their honest opinion, then you acknowledge, thank you for sharing your opinion. And then if you act on the feedback that they gave you, you tell them that you implemented their feedback. And so I feel like that feedback loop, no pun intended, but of someone offering an opinion or feedback, you implementing it, and then telling them that you implemented is something that a lot of leaders overlook. They might implement the feedback, but never tell the person that, hey, you had this idea and we're doing it. So I feel like that process repeated over time by all of your leaders of people in your company is something that creates that psychological safety as well.
Yeah, I remember an old advertising campaign that Toyota had, which was you asked for it, you got it. You asked for it, you got it, Toyota. I think the best way you can show you listen as a leader is to say, this is what you asked us to do, and this is what we did because of your insight. And I really think it's important to thank people from saving you from yourself. Many times you get passionate about an idea, you're ready to go down a path, and it's the wrong path. And you have somebody with courage step up and say, hey, look, you're missing this point or that point. When that happens, I think as a leader, you scream it from the rooftop and you let everybody know that you would have done this if it hadn't been for this person that really saved you. Like, I know I'd be really having a terrible podcast right now if it wasn't for you, Kayla.
Keeping you on track. All right, question number 3. In the episode, Mike shares a story about a time when he had to bring a team that was divided over whether or not to unionize back together. So there was one side of the company, there was one side of this team that was pro-union, the other side of the team was pro-company. And it was a hostile disagreement. I mean, there are people on the team who had stopped speaking to the other side entirely. And he talks about the process he went through to bring that team back together. David, what advice would you give a leader on how they can bring a team together when they're divided over an issue that a lot of people feel very passionate about?
Well, I think the most important thing you can do is find the common ground. The common ground is brings two groups together or two people together that have diametrically opposed views. When you find that common ground, then you can sort of inch towards progress and getting people to have a greater appreciation for where someone is coming from. Where I saw a lot of this was when I would see a couple of people just go at it, where you could tell they just didn't like how the other person thought and really didn't get, exactly, where that person was coming from. So in that case, we had this thing that I called the victimitis exercise, where you literally had each person share with the other person why they felt like they were a victim because of how that person was treating them or what that person wanted to do. And then, so you tell your victim story and then have the other person tell their victim story. And then you ask this question: what could you do differently after hearing this story? How could you move up the accountability ladder? How could you really, handle this situation differently now that you know the other side? And more times than not, you'd find more common ground and you'd find a better understanding because you really, by telling the victim story, you really got the feelings and the emotions and the rationale that you might have that gets you to feel that way. And oftentimes the opposing side has no clue about that. And I think that's how you can bring people together. When I went to KFC, we had a group of people who hated the franchisees. We had some people who felt we needed to work better with franchisees. I happen to believe that we need to work better with the franchisees and look at them as partners. And, in that particular situation, I needed to do it in a hurry. And I just said, look, from now on, we're going to love franchisees. I just said, there's a new sheriff in town. This is how we're going to do it. And I knew I wasn't necessarily winning people over. But I think when you have two sides that are really going at it, and believe me, the franchisees hated the company and the company hated the franchisees at KFC, someone has to extend trust first. And in that case, I knew we were going to not be able to get very far unless someone extended trust first. And I thought it needed to be us because we'd been failing by fighting with the franchisees. And the only way we were going to succeed, I felt, was to get everybody to start working with each other, find the common ground, and leverage each other's strengths and really get to better solutions. And I think because we turned that business around, it came from the fact that we turned our business relationship around with our franchisees because they came up with lots of ideas we never would have heard before that happened.
A lot of times I feel like, and Mike talks about this in the episode, spending time hearing the sentiment of both sides, whether that's in public with both sides together or whether it's just the leader going to one person from one side of the fence and another from the other and just letting them air their grievances. Because a lot of times I feel like it gets so volatile and people just get so worked up and they don't have a space or a platform or a designated time to just tell someone how they really feel and that they're frustrated. So I feel like that victimitis exercise is such a helpful thing, even if it's only to let people say what it is they're feeling and get it out in the open.
Yeah, but I think it's very, very important that after you go through that process, that you turn the corner and you actually come forward with action that you can take to move the ball forward. So I think you can listen for so long, but then you gotta move forward.
I love it. Well, that does it, David, for our episode of 3 More Questions for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to How Leaders Lead. We're on a mission to make the world a better place by developing better leaders. And if you carve out a little time with us each and every week, we'll help you build the confidence you need to lead well.
And you know what? Cool. I'm on my way to Chevron so I can get a full tank of gas because I happen to be running a little low at the point. And next week we have another outstanding leader that's going to be on How Leaders Lead. It's Tom Nolan, the CEO of Kendra Scott, joining us. And Tom is a powerful leader who knows how to motivate and inspire his team members. And I know everybody will learn a lot from Tom. So tune in to How Leaders Lead next Thursday, and you'll get some more insights that'll make you a better leader.